Well, it's been a couple weeks since we've done an update, so I thought I would do one now. If you don't know us, I'm Sarah, and this is Teddy. He's my assistance dog, and we have just arrived in Australia. I'm originally from Australia, but I've lived in the US for the last 20 years, and Teddy is an American. But I decided that I wanted to move home to Australia, and it's taken us about a year now to get Teddy ready to come with me. If you haven't seen the previous episodes, there's quite a few about the dramas and all of the things that unfolded as we went through this process, which has taken a year at least, probably closer to 18 months. It's long, it's expensive, but it is doable. Australia is one of the hardest places to bring an animal if you're from overseas or if you're an Australian who's returning. Just because Australia is an island and it doesn't have things like rabies, and so it is very strict and stringent on who they let in. Now, there are two ways that you can bring a dog to Australia, either as a pet or as an assistance animal or a service dog. And Teddy, being my assistance animal, we chose that path. And so a lot of people have made videos, or there's a lot of information online about pets coming to Australia, and there's whole threads and forums on the internet, but there's not a lot of information about assistance animals, and so that's why I've decided to make this series. Now, you can go back and see past videos on why I have Teddy. There's a whole one just on why I have him, but basically he's a hearing dog. I am hearing impaired, and then I have some other issues as well that he is task trained to work for. And when I wanted to come home to Australia, at first we thought about bringing him as a pet, and then I found out that I could bring him as an assistance dog, which I would prefer because he is already working in the US, and that way I can bring him here and he is recognized as an assistance animal in Australia. Now, if you have a service dog or an assistance animal that is ADI certified, it's going to be much easier for you. But if you did self-train or you did partial self-train, partial train through other people, it's possible, it's just slightly different. And because I got Teddy during COVID, and we self-trained, and then he's done several stints in board and train. We looked at going through an ADI place in Austin and having him train through there, so he had the ADI certification, but that was going to take a year at least to do that. And then so I was online and I found a lady called Lisa Robinson from Assistance Paws, and she helps you get him certified in Australia before I even got here, because even if I'd gone through the ADI facility, when I was looking at things like getting a New South Wales train pass, they're very picky on who they will accept. And so I was going to spend like 10 grand and a year to get Teddy this certification in the US, which then I wasn't going to actually be able to translate to him being able to actually do things in Sydney. And so when I found Lisa, she explained that I could go through her. She has him registered as an assistance dog here in Australia, and she has been amazing because she's held my hand through every single piece of paperwork. And even now that we're in Australia, today she's sending me his rail pass from Queensland so that I can get his New South Wales pass. Now, bringing an assistance dog is much like bringing a pet dog to Australia. They still have to do the RNAT, which is the rabies test, and wait the minimum 180 days. You have to do everything that a regular pet does to come to Australia, with some added things. Like I had to show letters from the doctor that showed that I had an actual disability. I had to do all kinds of extra paperwork to show that he was an assistance animal. I had to do a public access test. I had to do extra steps. A lot of people think it may be easier to bring a dog as an assistance animal, but there's actually a lot more paperwork, and I had to actually show the government that I really did need my dog in order for him to be able to come out as an assistance animal. Now, it probably took me an extra 6 months to bring Teddy as an assistance animal instead of just a pet, but the benefit to me was that he got to travel in cabin, so he rode on the airplane with me, and right now we are doing home quarantine. We got an Airbnb here in Sydney, and he has to do a minimum of 10 days of home quarantine, and then we should be free tomorrow to go out into the world. I just have to go to the vet, we have to have him checked, I have to send that paperwork off, and then they assess that paperwork, and then we get a clearance. But otherwise, dogs spend 10 days in Milcombe in Melbourne. And so this way, I don't have to lose use of my dog. It just means I'm at home for 10 days, kind of like during COVID when everyone did 14 days of quarantine. But the difference is I can leave, like I can go to the supermarket, and my husband came out with me, and so he'll stay at home with the dog, or he'll pop out to the supermarket. And so at least my dog is with me, and he's tasking, he's doing his alerts, he's doing all the things he needs to do instead of being in a quarantine facility somewhere. Once we knew what day the 180 days was up, we looked at flights and we booked a flight in premium economy because I did not have to spend the money for Teddy to go in a crate under the cabin, which can be quite expensive. I was like, you know what, let's get premium economy. That way we're all comfortable on the airplane. And then we put in for the upgrade to business class using points and cash. I think it was like $350 with American Airlines. And so we put in for that, and thankfully, like a couple days before the flight, we did get upgraded to business class, which meant that we had a very comfortable seat. Teddy was with me in cabin. He wasn't tucked under like a tiny economy seat. And so I highly recommend it if you can afford it, and if you're already saving the money on not, spending like $7,000 or whatever it is to have them go under cabin. And they're small enough. They have to be, Teddy's tiny. He's only 12 pounds or 5 kilos. So he easily fits under the seat in an airplane all the time anyway. But this way he was with me in a business class seat, and he was very comfortable. Now, I had planned the day so that we would fly from San Antonio to LA, and then I had these grand designs that we were going to leave the airport in LA and have an entire day, and then he could, flit around in LA and, get the runs out and have his zoomies if he had any, and, poop and all that stuff before we got on a plane at night. And then I realized, because I have 2 passports, I have one, an American one, and an Australian one, and they were in different names, and my TSA pre is under my American passport, and I was flying on my Australian passport because I had all Teddy's paperwork done under my Australian name. And so I looked when we got to LA, and we're in the flagship lounge, and I'm like, you know what, I don't want to leave the airport because it's going to be such a hassle. And so that was stupid on my part. I should have done the much smaller layover instead of the big one. But if you don't have different names because you're a normal person, or you don't want to leave the airport, that's fine. They have so many pet relief areas at LAX. I recommend the one over by Tom Bradley because it's actually an outdoor one, and it's really, really nice, and all the other ones are fucking disgusting. And Teddy will walk in and just be like, ugh, no, I don't want to go here. He will when I tell him to, but it's disgusting, and it assaults my nose when I walk in there. But there's an outdoor one at Tom Bradley. That's where you want to be. Now, when we checked in at San Antonio, I thought it was way too easy because I had a shit ton of bags, and flying business class, I had a lot of luggage, and my husband came with me, so we got extra luggage because, I'm moving forever, so I've got bags. But they looked over Teddy and they were like, yeah, fine. And there wasn't I expected. I legit had an entire booklet of 100 pages with every piece of information I could possibly need ready to go in a backpack just for him, that also contained the potty pads and his food and all of the things that he might need on an airplane. I literally had one bag just for him. But they didn't really do anything. And then we got to LA, we hung out in the club, we went around, and then I was like, you know what? When we go to get the flight from LA to Sydney, we should turn up a little bit early, even though we're enjoying champagne in the lounge. Let's turn up a little bit early because I bet they're going to have questions. And they did. So we get down to the gate, and I'm like, hey, I'm Sarah. I'm here with my assistance animal. We've come down early because you guys haven't checked any paperwork, and we expect that you probably have questions. And the lady's like, that's funny. We were just looking at that right now. And there was one gate agent who was brilliant. She was so smart. She'd already read all the things, and I had the booklet ready to go. And she's like, whatever. And I'm like, he's an assistance animal, and there was all kinds of questions. And she was kind of arguing with another couple of gate agents who were like, we don't allow dogs in cabin on international flights, and especially not to Australia. And she's like, but look, she has the paperwork. And so there was some back and forth, but the one chick, she was on it. She knew what was going on. She was reading the legislation. I had the paperwork ready to go with literally export permit, import permit, the RNATs, every single bit of information I had it ready, and I had like his cards, I had everything ready. And they were like, look, we think it's good, but we're going to call down a manager who's just going to go over the paperwork. And then, we waited a little bit. I took Teddy to the potty, came back. The manager showed up. He was lovely. He was a really nice guy. He like looked over the paperwork. He's like, you obviously have everything in order. You've already spoken to the disability people at American Airlines and arranged the flight, but I can see that you have every bit of paperwork necessary. And then, of course, when you're flying in business class, they kind of treat you a little bit better. So also another reason to, pay a little bit more for a ticket, because honestly, they do treat you better. But American Airlines, Teddy's flown with American, probably taken 20 trips domestically. And so also, if you're going to fly a long flight, get your dog used to flying beforehand, even if you're just taking short domestic trips, because Teddy knows the airport. As soon as he sees the airport, he's on his bestest behavior. He knows how to walk through TSA. He knows when we walk down the jet bridge that we stop and we wait. Like, he is the bestest boy. And I had potty pads for on the plane. He held it for 15 hours. He was like, I don't go on airplanes. So we got on the plane. We got to our business class seat. We were like in the seats. Thankfully, we didn't have like bad turbulence, but like I ate dinner, rolled it out. Teddy was on the floor when I had the seat down, like in the regular seat position. But when you put the seat in flat, there's nowhere for him to go, and he can't be under the seat. So he laid at my feet, and business class seats are big, like they're lay flat, and it's like got a little nook where he was. And it wasn't until the very end of the flight, and Lisa had asked for pictures of the process so we could show other people. And so I asked the flight attendants, like, hey, do you mind if we take a photo with you guys? And it's literally an hour before we're landing at this point. And they all come and they take a photo, and everyone around us is just waking up, and they look and they're like, wait, there's a dog on the airplane? And we got so many compliments at that point, because everyone's like, we've been riding with a dog for 14 hours and nobody had a clue that there was a dog there, because that's how your dog should be. He should be perfect and quiet and a good boy. And everybody was like, that dog's way better than any kid on an airplane. So if you're in Australia and you're hearing stuff about Virgin like starting to fly and people are whiny, I got so many compliments that he was so much better than a child. But we made it through the entire flight. Teddy was such a good boy. He just slept. And when I had to go to the bathroom, if I didn't take him with me, I passed him over to my husband and he looked after him for a while. Like, he was really good. He did really well. People are worried about how dogs are going to do on airplanes. Thank you, buddy. But if you get them used to it beforehand, it's fine. Teddy is a great traveler. Aren't you, buddy? Such a good boy. Now, when we landed and we got ready to leave, as we got to the door, they were like, Sarah, the people from Bicon are waiting for you. And literally, as we got out of the plane, there was people there pointing where we should go. And the girls from Bicon were so sweet. And we got off the plane and I'm like, hey, Teddy has not gone the entire flight, so we need to go potty. And I had the puppy pad ready to go just in case he had to squirt. And we landed, and there's only one pet relief area at Sydney Airport, and it was not in this section where we are. But the vet was there, the two Bicon girls were there, and they walked us through the airport. We finally found the pet relief area. Teddy didn't pee along the way, but he did kind of stop and let a couple nuggets out, which we picked up immediately, and everything was fine. But he made it all the way to the pet relief area before he peed, so there wasn't a mess there. But I mean, it's not just a 15-hour flight. You've got boarding, which can be 40 minutes. And then once you land, you never just get off the plane. It's always like, everyone dicking around and stuff, and it can take forever to get to the jet bridge. So, I mean, realistically, it's closer to 17 hours, and I can't hold it for 17 hours. So the fact that my tiny weenie dog did is, like, I'm just impressed. But he got to pee, and then we went over to a quiet spot in the airport where the vet checked him over, and they looked him over, they checked his heart rate, they checked his eyes, they do all the stuff that they do to make sure that he's fine. They were amazed at how calm he was. Like, they're listening to his heart rate, and they were like, he's just so chill. He's so chill. I'm like, yeah, he's used to flying, and also he hasn't been cooped in a crate for 15 hours. Like, I can imagine the anxiety dogs have that are traveling in a crate. And he's chill. I mean, he just spent 15 hours in business class. I mean, he's fine. But they checked him out. I got some more paperwork, and then we were allowed to go home in a cab. So we left. We came to the Airbnb, and they gave us instructions, just to keep him inside. We had to find a facility that didn't have any other mammals present. So I found an Airbnb in an apartment that didn't have any other dogs. And then they were like, you can take him out if necessary. Just keep him on a leash and don't let him near any other dogs. And he doesn't like going on the balcony. So literally, like, out the front of the building, there is like a little bit of garden. And so I just take him out there. He pees. We come back upstairs. If I see another dog coming, I move him out of the way, take him upstairs. So it's been fine. And then tomorrow, finally, we go to the vet. So we'll take him down the vet. They'll check him over. Hopefully everything's perfect. I send that paperwork in, and then hopefully they clear him pretty quickly, because we are all starting to get a little bit of cabin fever. Now, my husband's already desperately planning what we're going to do as soon as we get out, because also I had to leave him at home the one day because I'm here in an Airbnb, but I can't live in an Airbnb forever because that's fucking expensive. So I actually went and found an apartment. We arrived on Monday. I looked at an apartment on Wednesday. They called me on Friday and said I had it. And I'm like, I can't take it until Daddy gets out of quarantine, so I get the keys this weekend. So that's great. So everyone, like, that was my biggest fear before we came out, because everyone was like, basically it's the fucking Hunger Games trying to find an apartment in Sydney. And I got the first one that I looked at with a dog. So maybe people are being too picky. Maybe they're all looking in the inner city. I don't know. We're on the North Shore. So maybe that was easier. Or maybe it was because, like, I was looking for a furnished apartment. But I mean, we found it. So if that's your fear, it's not as dramatic as people are making out. Now, as soon as Teddy goes to the vet, they will give him the clearance for Bicon, but I also need to get his microchip, like, signed off on, because I have to take him to the council to get him registered, because as an assistance animal, I have to do it in person. I can't just do it online because it's a whole different thing. And then once I have his council registration, I can then get his New South Wales travel pass, because I have a job, and Teddy will go with me to work, but I don't have a car, so I will be like bus, ferry, train, whatever. So he will need a pass, because apparently, even though the buses and ferries are kind of fine with the dog, the trains are apparently dicks about it. So I definitely need a card. So that could take a couple weeks. So thankfully my husband is out here for now. And, if there is an issue where I can't take him, he can, watch Teddy during the day until I can take him with me every day. And honestly, I don't know if I could have gone through this level of paperwork on my own, which is why I can't recommend Lisa from Assistance Paws enough, because she literally, like, walked me through everything before I got here. And then even, like, on the day of the flight, she was constantly, like, messaging me, like, how's it going? Are you making it through okay? And I was sending her pictures and giving her updates. And then once I got here, she's constantly checking on me. And then, like, for the apartment, I said, I have a dog, and they sent me a pet thing, because I said I had an assistance animal, and they sent me a pet form, and I'm like, hey, Lisa, is it a pet or, like an assistance dog? She's like, no, it's definitely, make them fill it out as an assistance animal. And so she sent me a whole packet that I gave to them, and they were instantly at the real estate agent like, yep, okay, assistance animal. And then now on the lease, which I signed today, he is listed as an assistance animal. And then, like, I'm like, hey, like, when he gets released from quarantine, how long is it going to take before I can take him on the train? And she had got me a Queensland pass originally. And so she just sent me a message right now saying that she's got that in the mail today. So I have that, because you can use the Queensland one in New South Wales as a visitor. And so that should be good until my New South Wales ones comes in. But yeah, so we went from like 3 weeks ago where I was just ripping my hair out, wondering whether I was going to be able to get through all of this and if everything was going to be okay, because there was some last minute just fuck ups with paperwork, just on, like, because one vet was being a dick. His regular vet was amazing, and the other vet was like, well, we don't give, like, vaccine certificates for flu shots. And I'm like, ew. And, like, it's intense. And then also, like, I was PMSing. So if you are planning your trip and you are a woman, Do not plan those last 5 days where you have paperwork literally every day for the days when you also just want to stab people in the face because of hormones. Don't do it. Everything worked out. Everything worked out. The flight worked out. The flight was great. We got here. The people at BICON in Australia, like, I don't know why people in the US who work for the government are just terrible, but everyone who works at the government in Australia is just lovely. Like, they only seem to hire nice people. So they were the easiest to work with. So, like, if you were worried, like, you can send them an email and they actually reply, or you can phone them and they answer the phone. Like, it's just completely different to the USDA. So don't worry about on the Australian end. They are great to work with. And then get yourself a Lisa, because your Lisa will walk you through everything, even if you use a different place. But Lisa's amazing. I highly recommend her. But yeah, if you're worried, know that it is doable. Everything will get there eventually, and we're very, very excited for tomorrow. We're in fingers crossed. Teddy is released from quarantine, and he can officially be an Australian dog, and we can go out. It's about to be Vivid in Sydney, which, if you don't know what that is, it's this huge light show that goes for several weeks, and it is amazing. And I really want to go out and see it, but I'm not going to go out without Teddy. So hopefully that happens. And then I'll do another update in a couple weeks when we move into our forever home, or for 12 months at least, and let you know how that goes. Thankfully, it's literally across the street from the Airbnb that we're in now, and across the street from my brother's, because I have already luggage at his place. And I can roll it across the road to the new apartment. And then if I ever have to go somewhere, like an audition or a red carpet where I can't take Teddy for some reason, my brother's right there, so I can be like, hey, you got a doodle for the day. But yeah, so that's my update. I hope I didn't ramble too much, but if you are bringing an assistance dog to Australia, you can do it. We did it. We made it. We're very excited. So yeah, hope that was helpful. Bye. Teddy, say bye.